Welcome back. You are tuned in to WRFG 89.3 FM, and this is the Labor Forum, and I'm so happy to bring Neil here. I have to tell you all, this is an interview that has gotten scheduled, postponed, and now finally, this is the third time, so it's a charm. And we're really happy that, actually, that it's happening today because now the contract is actually signed and settled, and so it's not something we're talking about that might happen, it's something that did happen. So, okay, so Neil is a business agent for IATSE, which is the stagehands workers union, and 927. And so Neil, if you wouldn't mind, give us a little bit of background about IATSE and then exactly what this victory is all about.
So the IATSE is the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. We are the people who do...
Oops, we just dropped the microphone, folks.
People who do things like this.
No, I'm sure your workers don't drive them like
My particular local does stage work. So we work backstage at the Fox with the Atlanta Opera, with the Atlanta Ballet, and now we have recently signed a contract for work at Lakewood Amphitheater with Live Nation to do rock and roll work. This is a campaign that started 8 years ago as a stem the tide against misclassified workers who are being told that they're 1099 employees or 1099 workers instead of employees. And through fits and starts, we tried to organize. 2 years ago, we went to the National Labor Relations Board, got a favorable decision against Crew One, which was the company that was using these workers as independent contractors. Crew One appealed. They appealed to the local board, the local National Labor Relations Board, and lost. They appealed to the National Labor Relations Board in Washington and lost. And then in January of 16, they had appealed to the 11th Circuit, and they prevailed in the 11th Circuit. That vacated the decision at the National Labor Relations Board. But Live Nation came in, and through a negotiation between Live Nation and the International, the parent union, we were able to gain voluntary recognition at Lakewood Amphitheater for these workers for this season, and then next season we will add Verizon Wireless Amphitheater and Chastain Amphitheater.
All right, so let's describe to folks. They've been at a concert. They've seen the big stage. They've seen all the sound. They've seen all the rigging. What is it that the folks who are IATSE members do?
When you come into a building, you get basically the four walls and the ceiling, and that's it. Everything that we do, every mic stand, every platform, every light, every piece of truss, all of that comes in on trucks. So normally at 8 in the morning, we have anywhere from 6 to 30 trucks show up, dump them out, spread them out all over the venue, take all the stuff out, set it up, so that by 8 o'clock, we're ready to do a show. We do that show, and then at 11 o'clock, we do the whole thing in reverse, put it back in trucks, and send it on its way to somewhere else.
All right, so, wow. All right, so this is a variety of skills, everything from really knowing about the technology to just brute force.
It's carpenters, electricians, audio people, video people, riggers, truck loaders, forklift operators, sound engineers, and then yes, some lift and tote folks as well.
All right, so I'm looking at everybody else. Does anybody else have a question? Because otherwise I'll go ahead. Okay. All right, so now these workers who were 1099, considered like temporary workers, really, never knew if they had a job, never knew how long the hours were, never ever knew anything. What are the benefits now that they have this contract?
So in 2014, when we went to the National Labor Relations Board, the majority of these workers were getting paid $10 an hour on a 1099. For those who don't understand what that means, as an independent contractor, their effective wage was almost minimum wage. It was about $7.35 an hour. Because at 1099s, you have to pay both the employer and the employee portion of all of your taxes. So at that point, in 2014, they were $10 an hour. After we did all of this organizing and we were able to negotiate with Live Nation, those workers signed a contract or voted on a contract on August 16th for $15.60 an hour. So within 2 years, we raised their wage by 50% because they got together and organized.
But there are these other benefits too. So when you're an independent contractor, and this is one of the big issues that affects so many workers who are considered independent contractors, not actual employees of a company, is that when you're that, you don't get unemployment, you don't get workers' comp. There's a whole variety of things you're not eligible for. So now, explain the other things that workers will be able to get who are members of IATSE 927.
So all of these workers that come in now have the opportunity to be members of the union. They get unemployment, they get workers' comp, they get taxes taken out, they get Social Security payments. So what I often say when I'm doing an organizing drive, it's the difference between a present and a future. The union offers them a future. It gives them the protection that they don't normally have because they've been treated as an independent contractor.
So, could you say a little about the industry? Because when I'm thinking about ticket prices and the profit margin that's at work here, that the struggle to give workers a fair wage and benefits when you're looking at the profits of the corporate owners.
In many cases, the stagehands are the last people thought about. They're the ones who come in early in the morning, they work until late at night, and they're, in many people's minds, an afterthought. In any particular union struggle, you only gain traction because an employer has not treated the workers well. And what we strove to do was give them a voice, give them a chance to have a say in what they're doing, give them the ability to have, for example, one of the things that we have in our contract that you wouldn't have normally is you can't get fired without cause. In Georgia, being a right-to-work state, you can fire somebody for any reason at any time. With a contract, you have set rules, and the employer cannot fire you without just cause. And if they do, there's a grievance and arbitration provision. So all of that comes in because they got organized.
So
Prior to that, they didn't have that.
This was as much about dignity, it sounds like to me, as it was about money. This was a group of workers that was invisible to the owners that now are getting the respect they deserve.
Very much so, yes.
What was their, like the working conditions before? Can you talk about the working conditions that they had that actually made them decide that they wanted to organize?
The working conditions, the biggest problems they had were things like their time wasn't respected. They were told that they had to show up a half hour before their scheduled start time. If they didn't show up a half hour before the scheduled start time, they ran the risk of losing the job for the day. But they weren't paid for that half hour. So they were told, in common parlance, they would say, oh, so it's 7:30 for an 8 o'clock. I have to show up at 7:30 to be ready to work at 8 o'clock. Well, legally, if you're going to do that, you should pay them from 7:30 when you're telling them to show up.
That's only fair.
Another thing that happened, a large part of our organizing drive was that Crew One, the company that was initially using these workers as misclassified 1099 workers, they would not offer them cold water. They're working outside in amphitheaters during the summer,
Wow.
and they didn't have cold water. The thing that, when we came in, one of the first things they said is, wow, we get iced water.
Wow.
Iced bottled water. You'd seem like it was a small thing, but it was amazing how much difference that made to people.
I want to ask about some of the dangers, because people are supposed to work fast, because they've got a deadline to get all of this equipment up and working. And I was just wondering how many folks, get hurt on the job and what the difference about having a union contract will now mean for that.
That difference is actually writ large in what we did as soon as we organized this group of people. Within a month of us signing on with Live Nation, we did an OSHA 10 class specifically for this group of workers. OSHA 10 is basic entertainment safety. The IATSE has created an OSHA 10 class written directly for the entertainment industry. And we took 70 of these workers and ran them through that OSHA 10 class and got them OSHA 10 certified, so that because the union came in, they are now better trained in safety than they were when they started.
Okay, so let's suppose there's somebody out there. How do people get into this field?
There are a lot of ways to get into the field. It starts a lot of times because of a love for rock and roll or a love for the arts. Many people do this in high school, and they find that they found a family, they found a place. What happens is, once that happens, they can then come to the union and sign up and work on our referral list. Once they work on a referral list for a while and they decide this is a career that they want, they can come and become members of our local.
Well, thanks so much, Neil. This was cool. I enjoyed this discussion, particularly since it is our union victory. Can you just give real fast a contact info if there's anybody out there who either would be interested in joining?
Anyone who's interested in more information about the local, we have a website, iatse927.org. You can call me at 404-226-1890, or you can call our office, 404-870-9911.
Thanks so much for stopping by, Neil. I'm glad it took us 3 tries, but we got this interview, and we are so glad to share this information with our listeners. We're going to take a brief break for one more message from WRFG, and then our caller is calling in from North Carolina. Lamont, welcome to the program, and we're going to start with our voices from Standing Rock and talk about this incredible struggle that has just, it has just swept the imagination of so many people into forms of resistance on a variety of issues. So please stay tuned to the Labor Forum. Thank you so much.